I guess we could just go ahead and get started. First, I'm curious to know, because we recently just did an episode this week, and we kind of talked about what our biggest gig pet peeves are, and I was curious to know if you have any gig pet peeves, whether that's as an artist or as a concert goer.
Gig pet peeves. I mean, I guess, wow, there's so many I could think of.
Yeah, we had a lot.
I guess as a concert goer, I guess it's weird because like there's certain concerts I can go to and just am truly a fan and am just in the moment and like enjoying the show. And then there's shows I go to for research. Like I'm like watching tape or something, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to see what the other team is doing kind of thing.
Sure. Right.
Not that music's a competition, but you're always, curious about how how the show run goes for your peers and, what they're doing production-wise and everything else, what works, what doesn't work for other people, what works for you. And I think my biggest pet peeve, and we've all been there. I suffer with it as well, obviously, because like when you're burnt out and whatever. But when it's to the point of where you can literally tell on stage that the artist would rather be anywhere else than on stage. And believe me, I'm not saying that I have never been there because I definitely have, but I try to make a conscious effort to at least pretend, when I'm having those days when I don't want to be up there and I'd rather be anywhere else. Other show pet peeves are dickhead security guards that get on a power trip. And also a huge pet peeve of mine is that when we're not like we're the biggest band in the world, but I feel like it's out of the respect for the artist if they're headlining your venue to at least have a meeting or at least do some mild research if your venue staff or security of who the headliner is, who the members of that band is, and have just a general sense of like, okay, at least these 3 or 4 people I know not to bother. And
right.
And I get it. These people are probably making $15 an hour and don't want to be there and like whatever, but I think it just on a respect level, if someone's coming to play your room or your club, that's like the bare minimum you could do.
I would want to know. I would want to know what I was in for as a security guard. So I would
also
be,
that too. It's like, what am I? What am I dealing with? Like, blah, blah, blah. And you have security.
Am I going to be catching people or am I just going to be kind of standing there or,
Exactly. Because like, for instance, like I've been also like, it's funny. I guess this is a big pet peeve, but because this kind of lends to that, but we played Firefly Festival in 2021 and I jump up and down from the crowd and stuff and go running around and I jump down and I come running back to stage with security behind me, like leading me back to stage. And, the security guard guarding the stage stairs, like grabs me the point where he's like, "No, you got." I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" I'm like, I literally like had to like elbow him off of me. I'm like, "I have a microphone." Like
I was gonna say,
if somebody has ears in there, probably good to go.
Yeah, and anyway, that ended up. Yeah, I was just like, I remember like raging after that, being like, "What the fuck was that?" But so that was that makes me sound like such a diva, but
no, I
don't think so. We actually brought that up yesterday too, or when we were recording. We talked about Mike Dirnt from Green Day getting tackled at Woodstock '99. Just the security guard knowing who the band members are could have prevented that.
To be fair, he was covered in mud, so
that too. But didn't you bring one up too? Somebody else got punched.
There's a infamous Cobain one where he crowd surfed, he gets brought back onto the stage, and then security guard starts wailing on him. And then he hits the security guard with the butt of his guitar.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then other than that, I guess maybe I'm just jaded and don't really think about a lot of shit anymore. And just because I'm like, oh, that's a thing. Like that, okay. Like I've just
my big one
to...
was talking during like acoustic performances and things like that. Just general crowd annoyances.
Crowd. Yeah, that's a big one for sure. Yeah, definitely when you hear like crowd members like just being obnoxious during like a very quiet intimate moment of the
Yes.
show for sure.
Yeah, just ruining the show for somebody.
Yeah, and also as a performer, I will literally like
Yeah,
if I'm like in like a small moment like that, I'll stop and be like, "Are we done?"
Good for you.
I'll
for
be
you.
like, "Are we done talking? Can I finish the
Oh,
song?"
you say it a lot nicer than I do.
How do you feel about concert goers filming the show on their phone? Are you a fan?
That's whatever. I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
at this point of where we are with technology and stuff, it's just it is what it is. And if they want to have that moment to relive in their phone instead of enjoying it, then who am I?
Yeah,
They're paying
right.
to be there,
Yeah.
So if they want to have that memory, then who am I to
Fair enough.
stop them from doing that? But yeah, I think I'm just like past the point of like even recognizing that anymore. Like, you know what I mean?
Sure,
When phones
yeah.
are up or whatever, it's just kind of like,
It's like commonplace.
it's the
anymore.
norm.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the norm now. Yeah.
All right, Mitchy, before we dig in to other portions of this interview, we have to talk about your hit song, Broken. And for everyone that's listening to this podcast, here's why I want to talk about this song. Broken was released in April of 2017. It was the lead single off your debut EP, Everything I Could Never Say. And it was later added to your debut full-length album, Finding It Hard to Smile, in 2018. And if anybody listening listened to the radio, mainstream radio, for 10 minutes, you would have heard this song. So the song peaked at number 1 for 9 weeks on the Billboard Alternative chart, and it spent a total of 76 weeks on the chart, setting a Billboard record at that time. I think the previous record was like 65 or 66, somewhere in there. And that was until All Time Low, I think, came out with Monsters, which I don't think is fair because they had different versions of that song to help keep propelling it.
It's so funny. Sorry to cut you off there, but like it's the
No, you're good.
funny little anecdote about that is like I've known those guys for 15 years.
Really?
And we joke about it where it's like, man, isn't it like my buddy Andrew, who is a writer of the song, he mentioned this to me, a writer on that song Monsters. He's saying that they were talking like, hey, isn't it funny how like, the second, like, cause like in that top 10 of like biggest songs of, alt chart history, like there's some heavy hitting names there.
Right.
And Andrew's just like, I guess they were talking, they're like, isn't it funny that like we're number 1 and then just like the number 2 band is just Mitchy? Like, it's just like, so it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's funny, like we've been friends for so long and now we're just like right next to each other on this crazy chart.
Yeah, how rad is that, though? Because, I mean, that's, like you said, that's good company. There's some crazy names on that chart. And, like, that's just stuff that most artists just dream about. Mm-hmm. So
it's awesome to see that for them, too. Like, like I said, they've been
Sure.
a band for 20 years and they had that moment, which just really doesn't ever really happen for a band. If you've been a band that long, it's very rare that you have a hit that 20 years later.
Right, exactly.
And it's just really cool that they kind of have this now all of a sudden new fan base as well.
Right.
That was added
Absolutely.
to their,
It's hard enough to keep it together for 20 years, let alone
Exactly. Yeah.
to have that resurgence.
Yeah. So Broken, again, crushed records, over 44 million views on YouTube, was the most played song on U.S. alternative rock radio in 2018. And all of that helped the song go triple platinum in the U.S., double platinum in Canada, platinum in other countries. So I know you kind of alluded to this already, but when you hear all of that, I know you lived through it, but when you hear that and reflect on those numbers, what do you think of?
Got to do it again.
Gotta do it again. How do you one-up yourself?
Got to do it again. No, but for real, I mean, with this band, I remember like writing the songs and, looking, because when you're in it, you're in this tunnel vision, it's just happening.
Yeah.
So you don't really have time to really recognize what's happening. I mean, we knew something crazy was going on because, like, when we started the band, my other 2 bandmates, Jordan and Sam, this is essentially their first, like, real band. I'm just under 10 years older than them. Like, I'm about 8 years older than Sam and 9 years older than Jordan. And so this is their first, like, real band, like, real record deal, the whole shebang. I've been through it a couple times, but I remember talking to them and us putting the song out, and then all of a sudden, like, we got the record deal really fast, and then it started charting at radio, and like we were kind of all just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is happening here? Because that was kind of like the catchphrase of the whole album cycle. It was like, what is happening? And I just remember talking to them all the time, being like, yo, this never happens. Like, ever. Like, our first song out the gate is taking off the way it did. And that's amazing because it kind of just gave us this big launching point to thankfully also, like, make it through the pandemic as a band. You know, it gave us this, kind of, we were luckily, like, got to a place where we did definitely, our career took a back step, but like it didn't implode because of it, like a lot of bands I know did. So we were thankful for that. But also on the other side of that, you know, you hear the numbers and you hear that, and like, so now we're always kind of living in the shadow of that song. So, which has been amazing and also really tough as a band, you know, because you're just like, when your first thing is that big, no matter what you do, it's going to pale in comparison. It's going to be a failure in comparison to that first thing.
Well, hey, you guys are doing just fine, and I'll get to that later, but continue.
Thank you. But, you know, well, not maybe a failure, but like, you know, you can't help, comparison is the killer of creativity. And like, I get caught up in that so much because I'm like, oh shit, like this album didn't do what this album did, and like our second album didn't do what our first album did, and now we're like, all right, cool, we have a third album coming out. You know, it just, you know, it's hard. It's a blessing and a curse having your first single be as successful as Broken was, and you know, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But also, you know, it's hard, like I said, it's hard to, no matter what we did, it was gonna, you know, it just was gonna pale in comparison. But you know, the way I try to look at it was just like, you know, okay, cool, that happened. That was a thing. That's never going to happen again. Maybe another song will be as successful or more successful, but that specific thing will never happen again.
Did you know that the song was going to be a hit, though, when you wrote it?
No, I hated it.
I hated it.
I hated it. Personally, I hate everything I do.
Really?
Like, everything. I write it, and I'm like, oh, this is whatever. And then I listen back, like I'll listen back like a month or two later. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then
is it kind of like, if you can tolerate it, listening back to it, you know, it's
exactly like, but like the thing though that you know is hard is that, like, I guess it's a songwriter ear, because like sometimes, right, okay, so like a perfect example, like sometimes you just never know. I never know. You don't know what the fuck a hit's gonna be. You don't know where it's gonna come from. You don't know what's gonna react. So basically, we put Broken out because I was like, all right, Broken's cool. This is a cool song. I think this would be good to go out first, put that on the EP, and then we'll take it to radio. Hopefully it'll chart. We'll get on tour. We'll build something. But then we're going to put out These Are My Friends as the first single from the full length, and that's the hit. That's the hit song. And then, what very well could have been, but Broken exploded and just didn't get out of the way of anything else. So like, you know, and as a new band, radio stations are kind of sometimes a little hesitant to play more than one song, especially if a song like Broken is getting played so much. They don't want to, like, you know, and we're not a legacy thing. They're kind of hesitant to play more than one or maybe two songs at a time from a band. And so we kind of ran into that trouble. So who's to say if These Are My Friends would have been as big or bigger, you know, but because of Broken success, it kind of was like the sacrificial lamb, if you will. So,
gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. Did the song have any different iterations before you tracked it?
No, to be honest, we wrote the initial idea. It was like the last hour of a session. Fiddled around with like the bass line and the guitar thing I had, and then the drum beat, and then like the little synth line, and then wrote the hook. Then we were like, all right, this is just, let's leave it, come back. Next time we got in the studio, I just kind of like freestyled some melody stuff, which ended up just being the verse and the pre-chorus. And then really the final session, I wrote all the words for the bridge and like the lyrics for the chorus and the pre-chorus. And then that was it. And then we did we added some, you know, later, like when we were cutting the record, like for the album and stuff and it was going to come out, we, you know, finalized, like we added more instrumentation and everything else. And then the only thing that was added last minute was that I went to, the song was done. We were getting ready to, like, you know, we were signing our deal. Shit was coming out, like whatever. Oh, sorry, no. This was before we signed the deal. This is before I put the song out. This was just when I had the songs written. I was like shopping around, meeting people, and I hadn't put anything out yet. But a friend of mine had me come to the NRG recording studios in North Hollywood, California. And he was like, yo, Linkin Park's recording, and he's really, my friend Renee, he's really close to them. And he was like, come meet Chester. So I got there, ended up meeting Chester.
Oh, wild.
Meeting Chester. This was maybe a handful of months before he passed away. And we're in the studio, played him some songs. Such a sweetheart of a guy, just so in love with music. And I played him Broken, and there's this like, and he was like into the song, which was exciting, because Chester Bennington.
Yeah.
But the second pre-chorus, he had this idea. He's like, you should add some like reggae something, like it needs like a little part here, I think. I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. That'd be cool. And then, I literally went back to the studio, and I like remember being back in the studio when we were cutting the thing, and then that just popped back in my head. I was like, let me try that. So there's this little like a stabby, like 2/4 stab thing in the second pre-chorus of that song that I wrote for that podcast. I was like, oh, and then, unfortunately, a handful of months later, he passed away, and just recently, our newest single. And it was a weird timing because we were coming up on 6 years of as a band, and in that week we were, they were number 2 on the alt chart, and we were number 3 with our new single "Sail Away," and so it was a kind of a weird like full circle moment. And
that's wild. That is wild.
Yeah.
But how cool to say that you have a song that had some influence from Chester Bennington.
Yeah. Totally.
So you were shopping your stuff around in order to get signed. How does the whole shopping around go?
Man, that changes with every situation.
Okay. Is it you got to know somebody to like get in?
I had so basically, I had just come out of a project, very stereotypical music industry situation where. Big major label deal, big time music manager, exec guy, all went to shit, got dropped by the management. It was horrible, fell out, like broke my heart with music. It's just a bad situation, It was just literally like your stereotypical major label situation. And
sure.
After that, I kind of took a year off and just got back in the studio, started writing, trying to fall in love with music again. And then I just knew that I was like, I don't want to do that again. I don't want the major label. I don't want the big manager. I want this to feel like I want to do the exact opposite of whatever I just did. So I hit up my buddy, my best friend in the whole world, Dennis Lapari, who's our manager. And, he'd always been my confidant since we were kids. We'd call and talk on the phone for hours about what ifs and what we should do and, whatever. And then finally, like I started, through that course of conversation, the songs being passed around, like our friend Renee, the same guy that introduced me to Chester, he's just a really connected guy in the music industry. Just like knows a lot of people, everybody loves him, and he just was sending my stuff around and sending Broken around to people. And through him, this guy Don Robertson, who ran Another Century at the time, which was this little indie, and I was like, oh, that sounds like where I want to be, just like kind of like a boutique label.
Yeah.
And then we ended up meeting. And so band got announced in March. April, Broken came out. May, I met Don. June, we signed. End of June, played our first show. End of July, we were on tour.
Wild.
And yeah, shit kind of happened pretty fast. And then August, September came around, and the scariest thing that could happen happened. Got a call that our label had been sold to Sony. And they were folding into Red Music. And I was like, fuck. I was like, no, not again. But thankfully, the president of the label, Bob Morelli, and then Don, going over there, they loved us and championed us. And,
that's good.
And the whole team was excited. And it was really a beautiful situation. And, I couldn't be more grateful for everybody there. Because they, without them, and the radio team, Scott Burton and Danny Bush, and without all of them there, that first album would have been as successful as it was. And but to answer your question about how does a shopping thing start, I guess it varies. Sometimes you just have a song that goes viral on the internet, and then you have these junior A&Rs or something coming to you, or it's just a manager that is connected that has relationships with these labels because just people they came up with, and now they're just like,
Sure.
you just. And I have friends in the record business too that I would email and be like, yo, what do you think of this? Like, this is my new project, blah, blah, blah. But then like guys like Renee Mata, who's just like super connected, and he just passed it around, and then someone was like, oh, let me meet this guy. And it's kind of as simple as that, to be honest. And I guess like for me, what I used to do, it's funny, like, because kids will ask me like, how do you get a record deal? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I'm just like, you don't really need one anymore.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like you really don't need one because of how music is with that, like, all the avenues of marketing, you can do it yourself. But
Right.
if, like sometimes you don't have money or you don't have the know-how or whatever it is, and record labels are a good thing, if the right situation comes, like, it's a good launching pad for things if you need it. But I used to, back in the day, I used to just before I had a manager and stuff, when I was a kid, I literally like made a fake email saying I was my own manager.
Beautiful.
And then I would just like guess emails, because usually it's someone's first name at whatever record label. So if you find the executive, or like their first initial dot, their last name at whatever record label, and I would just guess, and usually
Genius.
I'd be right. And I just email them and be like, hey, this is so-and-so emailing on behalf of blah, blah, blah.
And you'd get responses back?
Yeah, sometimes I would get responses, and then, sometimes not, but.
That's rad.
Yeah.
So has the song Broken, because of its success and all that, has it changed the way that you approach writing or making music, or do you just kind of do it the same way you've always known how?
It's funny. Yes, it did 100% change the way I went about making music in a really bad way for a period of time, because for the second album, we were chasing something. You know what I mean? We were in that mindset of, fuck, we got to follow this up, which is the killer to anything like that.
Because you're trying to write hits now.
Once you're trying to write something is when it's just going to be dog shit. And we got lost in that sauce of, we just started chasing something. We started chasing songs that like really weren't our vibe. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm so proud of our second album. I think there's great songs on it. But in my opinion, as the writer of a lot of it, and Jordan and Sam can attest, we could definitely hear when we listened to it that we were like chasing something that, like, necessarily, like you said, we were chasing a hit, and because we had that pressure on us, that unspoken pressure of, we got to follow this up,
Yeah.
And if we don't follow it up, and it's not as big as the first one, then what are we? And get lost in that headspace.
Yeah,
very easily.
I mean, and it's a thing. The sophomore slump is like, it's a known thing, so people already expect it. So there's that pressure too.
Exactly. But with this third album, and because of the pandemic, we were really able to take our time and kind of just get back to writing and doing what we do, and kind of like the pressure was off. And so to answer your question, it did definitely change my mindset for a moment. And because you get lost in this, like, also you get lost in the box that you create for yourself. You're like, oh, well, this is us, this is what we have to do, this is what it has to sound like. And when you can kind of finally just like let go and just make things, like, that's when things happen.
It might be hard too when you're a new band. I mean, I know you've done the band thing, you've written songs for a long time, but you guys together are a new band.
Oh,
so
totally.
Sometimes that first album, you're kind of still finding yourself, you know, and then that second album, well, you already had a monstrous hit, but you're still trying to find your lane, So I think that kind of goes and can go into it as well.
Absolutely. And, like, there was no really like time of like development or like anything like that. It was just like, I wrote some songs, met these two dudes that I thought are rad. We started this band, wrote some more songs, called it an album, and then it was successful.
Right.
So then that became the sound. And now we're just evolving and kind of just settling into who we are and, what makes us us. And we're still learning every time we get in the studio, what we are, who we are, what we're going to become.
Were you nervous about touring with them? Because,
Jordan
you
and
had all
I,
that success.
Jordan and I were friends before the band. We met just kind of by happenstance at my apartment randomly. He came with another friend of ours, and we hit it off. You know, became pretty fast friends. And then like I remember like it got to the point where I had the songs. I was like, oh, I should probably put a band together, because I had done the solo artist thing before. I had done like like whatever, and I was like, it's just like too lonely. I was like, I want a band. I want people I can fail with, because it's all about who you can fail with. Winning is. Everyone loves you when you're at the top, but it's all about, who's still around when your record flops.
Exactly.
And you're not the shiny new toy. But yeah, Jordan and I have been friends. And then I randomly was on his Instagram and saw he was unbelievable at guitar. And I was like, oh. So I asked him, I showed him the songs. We talked, asked him if he wanted to do the project. He was down. And then Sam, that was funny because the two of us had to became friends with Sam because on the road, like you said, it was definitely we became friends on the road and learned about each other really fast and learned a lot about each other really fast because we met Sam on Instagram and because our friend just sent him his, we were looking for a drummer because our original drummer moved back to Australia, just couldn't do it. And so we met Sam. Sam, fun fact about the band, is the only member of Lovely the Band that has seen Lovely the Band play live.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He came to our first show. And we met, and then he was down to do it. And then literally, like I said, I think he came to our show end of June. June 26th was our first show at the Roxy. And he came to it. We talked. Me and him got lunch maybe a week later, or maybe a handful of days later. July 1st, he came to the studio. We finished recording with him on drums what would be the first EP. And then, like I said, 2 weeks later, we were out doing promo.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Move fast for him for sure.
Yeah.
Some might call that a whirlwind.
Yeah, literally.
So you've seen a ton of success even after Broken kind of ran its course, which some would argue that it's probably still running its course, and it probably still will for a long time. But you've released a smash in Sail Away, which is my favorite song, by the way.
Thank you.
That currently has over 20 million streams globally, and according to my notes, Sail Away is currently at number 3 on the U.S. alternative radio chart, and it peaked at number 22 on Spotify's global rock streaming chart, and all that leads up to your newest song, Make Me Wanna Die. Love this song, too. Can you talk about this one a bit? It just came out on March 31st, I think, just this last week.
Yeah, it came out Friday. That one was cool. I love the high energy of it. This song.
The video is amazing as well.
Thank you. Yeah, our homies Tanner Zagarino and Connor Brasher did that for us, and we're stoked on how it came out. It was like a shot in Topanga at this house, and also the bar we stumble out of is a bar we hang out at a lot in the valley.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, the song's cool. It's got this kind of 80s kind of also angsty vibe to it. But common misconception, that song, people kind of think it's about a girl. It's not. It's about...
Okay. Set the record straight.
It's not. It's just kind of disguised that way. Not going too deep into it, but it's about a love affair that I had with something for the last couple of years that kind of got out of control. And I almost let it ruin my life. And luckily I was able to get a handle on things. And... because that chorus is about when I was at the midst of this kind of low point in my life. I was so in love with this thing and how bad it made me feel, but also amazing it made me feel because and the chorus is just kind of looking in the mirror and just you're so cute because you're dead inside, because that's just where I was at in my life. I was just miserable, horrible person to be around, just but this thing, I love the way you make me want to die, because it would just kind of make my mind go crazy and just, anyway, I'm on the other side of it, which is good. And,
good to hear.
And yeah, it was just kind of a song to myself, and I didn't really realize it until the song was done being written, that literally what it was about. And which is, I honestly, kind of what I do with a lot of songs. I never really know what I'm writing about until I'll have a general idea. But usually, just things kind of just pour out, and it's therapy
subconsciously.
Subconscious therapy for me in that way, and I'm just kind of coming to terms with that. That I don't really know what I write about until weeks or months later when I listen back. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what that was about.
That's interesting. I've heard lead singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's kind of the same way as well. Mm-hmm. Do you And sorry if was I cutting you off? Sorry
Oh,
if
no,
I was
no.
cutting you off.
No. I was just gonna say that. Yeah, like when I come to write stuff, I just like it's just whatever like falls out of me. You know, I've never been one to just sit and write about something. I just start singing, and I know like in just kind
Okay.
of the universe. Not to be too hippie here, but
No,
the
I
universe
totally
kinda
get it.
just, it
kinda
opens
just
up
speaks
and
to
it just
you.
kind of speaks and just goes.
Or drops something in your lap or something like that. There's so many artists that say something very similar to that. So I don't think that's crazy at all. But so is that usually how the songs come to you? Does it usually come if you're just noodling on the guitar, or does it come in like a melody just drop in your head in the shower? Do you write out like poetry almost? And
It all depends. It all depends. You know, sometimes I'll just like be in the car and I'll like lyrics will come to me and I'll write it down, or like I'll be jamming on the guitar and like something will fall out, or I'll be listening to a track and it's just like literally whatever inspires like something to like fall out of my mouth. Like it's
Sure.
literally like I'll just start singing things.
yeah.
It's like almost like freestyling, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I'll literally just start singing and then like I'll be like, oh, that was a cool line. Oh, that was cool. Oh, okay. And then I'll just like kind of start piecing things together. And then like once I have a general sense of like, then I'll edit things and whatever. But usually things just kind of like fall out.
You know, it's what I used to do, John. I don't even know if I told you this, but whenever we would write songs in our band, usually the melody always came to me first, and then I'd apply the music later. But if I was having a hard time coming up with something, I always liked getting a new album, because sometimes what I would do is I had never heard this album before, or these songs on this album, and I would play the song, and right when the chorus is about to hit, because I always liked a really strong chorus, as everybody does. And right when the chorus is about to hit, I'd hit pause, and then I'd continue as if I was.
Oh.
So I'd actually come up with a melody.
This sounds an awful lot like plagiarism to me, but
No, I wouldn't listen to the chorus at all. I would stop,
all right.
and then I'd come up with my own chorus.
you'd write your own chorus for them.
Yeah.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I wrote any better choruses or not, but
It's kind of like Mad Libs.
yeah,
Almost,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I'm always curious to know how these songs come to be. I always like to hear the backstories, so that's cool.
Yeah.
So you guys have this upcoming full-length album titled "If We're Being Honest." It's coming out June 2nd via your own record label,
Yes.
Happy Accident. So what can you tell us about the new album? Actually, I always am curious to know of any collabs, because collabs seem to be all the rage nowadays. Are there any collabs that we can expect?
We have one on the album. It's a song called "I'm Sorry" that our friend Black Bear's on.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and I sent him the song actually a couple months ago, and he was hype on it and
Love
down
Black Bear.
was down to jump on it. So I'm excited about that one. Other than that, that's it for the moment. But we're excited to get this album out. It's been 3 years almost in the making, and just kind of feels good to get some new music out there.
Yeah. So can you talk about the decision to kind of release it on your own album, or I'm sorry, on your own label? I know you guys moved away from the idea of big labels, but how did this label come to be, Happy Accident?
So, I mean, like, I wouldn't say that we moved away from it. Like, who's to say what the future holds for the next album
Sure,
or the one
right.
after that? Like, we might go back. We may go back to a major. We may not.
Sure.
Who knows? But right now for this album, we had left Sony. Our deal was up, and we had the decision to either go to a major, another label, or just kind of do it ourselves. And with the music landscape, we've built something, a base that, like, this is kind of the dream. You build it to something, and then you get out of the deal, and you do it yourselves, and it's not about this, but you make all the money.
Yeah,
and,
right.
because a big part of the fuckery that is the major label system is that it's kind of like the worst bank loan of all time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because the split is 80-20 usually, and 80 in the major labels favor, so they get 80%, the artist gets 20%. But the screwy thing is, as we know, say they give you $100,000 and you make $100,000, you've really only paid them back $20,000 because you pay back that loan based on your cut of everything, which is absurd.
Fuck. Jeez.
You know, that was like a part of it. We were like, oh, well, like, you know, we have this bass. Why don't we just try to do it ourselves? You know, even if like it does a third of what our first album, you know, we'll still be doing really well.
Yeah.
And also like just having complete creative control and making moves we want to make, and also just really just kind of being behind the reins and figuring it out as we go along has been really exciting and really fun. And you know, I gotta lay a testament to Dennis. He's kind of been manning the ship on as far as it comes, like, you know, like just knocking down doors and getting things done for us with the label and getting this in this album while we've been kind of in this creative process. But you know, also too, like starting the label, like Happy Accident, like I feel like it's called Happy Accident because, you know, I feel like everything in my career has literally been that. It's just been kind of like a happy accident. I've kind of stumbled my way into success because just like a lot of people in bands and music industry, like I never went to college. I never did anything. I just kind of did it and figured it out along the way. Made some bad choices, but, you know, signed some shitty deals, made some mistakes, but you know, you learn from them, and that's the learning process. So I kind of wanted to give and also start this label because I wanted to build something and like have a home that like we can bring artists into and like and help develop things and, you know, give them a safe space to create and just, you know, help with their vision the best way we know how, or, you know. And
is it tough being able to run both the label and being an artist at the same time?
Not right now. Because it's just us. But you know, ask me that in like 5 years from now when, when the label's kicking and we have a bunch of artists. But right now, no, it's pretty streamlined because it's just us and we're kind of making decisions, you know, about us. And you know, but we partnered with this company called Vidya, and they've been wonderful. Our friend Brendan over there has been wonderful. We worked with him at when we were at Sony, and so that's been kind of a cool like full circle thing to just kind of be back with some people that we started with.
Yeah, that's rad. But the main goal is to grow this label, I assume.
Definitely,
Sign some other artists.
Definitely want to grow it. It's always been my vision, you know. I've always like wanted music to hopefully afford me a lane to then, you know, start a label, sign some artists, be a mentor to young artists, and help them achieve their goals. Because, like, you know, I had a lot of help along the way.
Sure. Is there any specific genre that you want to stick to, or are you just kind of open to whatever's good?
That's the thing. I think the beautiful thing about the label is what I'm excited about. It's gonna like allow me to like hopefully sign some things that like scratch an itch creatively that like I just can't do, but I like.
Sure.
So.
All right. So you've got an upcoming summer headlining tour with special guests, Beach Weather. Can you talk about that a little bit? I guess does it start in June?
Yeah, June. Like first week of June it starts. That's like 4 weeks long, hitting some festivals, doing Summerfest. It's going to be fun, man. It's just, you know, it's our most aggressive tour we've done. We're putting a whole new show together for it. That's right, exciting. New set list, new show, new songs we're playing. Because we've been playing the same set list for, like a year and a half. Like the same thing. So we're really excited to just be playing, you know, new songs, some deep cuts, fresh. Some older stuff, some obviously songs from the new album. And just kind of putting a new show together. And we're bringing Beach Weather. They're having a moment right now, and which is so awesome because I've known Nick for probably over 15 years from bands back in the day. So it's really cool to see them having a go right now.
So where can we buy tickets?
You can just hit our website, lovelytheband.com, and then there'll be a link there you can find. But yeah, we're stoked to get the album out. We're really proud of it. Stoked to get back out on tour and just do what we do.
Dude, I cannot wait, honestly.
Where can one get a physical copy of it? Is
Probably
there planned like a vinyl release?
There's definitely going to be a vinyl release. Mm-hmm. So probably same, our website, lovelytheband.com.
Okay, cool.
Everything kind of just can be found there. We were hoping to have vinyl by the tour, but that shit takes forever. So.
Yeah, right. Good luck.
It's in demand.
Yeah.
So. Very much so. Well, Mitchy, I think this is a great place to end.
Cool.
Dude, I want to commend you on such a awesome career so far.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations. Good on you. I think it's awesome that you've started your own label for all the right reasons. And I'm happy for you that you've had the success in order to do that. And I know there's going to be so much more success coming your way. I know you you said that you were in that we have to write another hit mentality. And dude, as long as you guys keep doing what you're doing, like you are releasing hits. Like
thanks, man.
The singles that you've released, I've absolutely loved. Just continue doing you, man, and you guys are going to be awesome. You guys are going to be around for a while. I can tell.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And I'm impressed that you're able to talk about, mental health struggles and things like that so openly, which I think it helps other people be able to do the same, which is really crucial. So
Yeah,
appreciate that too.
Thank you. It's been a process.
Yeah.
As it is,
for everybody.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me.